Welcome to Holding Space with Magical Wheelism. In roller derby, holding space is an empowering and often intimidating act of strength and strategy for oneself and or teammates. Holding Space, the podcast, clears the floor for conversations that touch upon race, class, identity, and privilege to amplify stories, build community, and make more human connections in the skate world. Expect lots of smart, dope skate people musing about life on and off eight wheels and silliness. Can't forget the silliness that you never knew you needed and won't be able to live without. This is the very first episode, and I am so excited to launch this into the universe. And thank you so much for taking this trip with me. I am looking forward to having lots of incredible conversations and stories and tips, and just make this podcast into community, building a community in which we're all sharing and growing and motivating each other and just keeping going on and off eight wheels. But this is a space that we both make and create and help continue. So that's the reason for the title, Holding Space with Magical Wheelism, because I want us to hold space together. I want this to be a partnership with you, listener, and you, derby community, and you, skate community. Let's all pitch in and hold down more space in the podcasting universe. Why am I creating a podcast? Well, I love podcasts. I've been listening to them for about 10 years. And also in this day and age when skating has become more, a bit under threat, I'd say, with closures of rinks. And I wanted to uplift and shed light on parts of the skating community that are thriving and that are rich and that are very much alive. Plus, also, if we take anything away from the summer of 2019, is that representation matters. If you think back to Little Nas X in Old Town Road, Lizzo, the U.S. women's soccer team, Megan Thee Stallion and her Hot Girl Summer. It's all about just repping for your identity, yourself, your community, and showing the rest of the world that we're out here and we're flourishing and we're prospering. A bit about me. I am a New York City native. I am a skater. I grew up skating at a rink called Skate Key, which no longer exists, sadly, and am also a rec league skater with Gotham Girls Roller Derby in Brooklyn. I am a derby fan. I love derby. I feel like I knew and learned about Gotham like almost right when it was founded. I signed up for their mailing list and didn't end up going to my first bout until like 2012, which was like a smooth 8 years later, when I had a friend in town and we were just randomly looking for something to do, and it was love at first sight. I fell in love with the athleticism, the whole predominantly queer and women and trans vibe of it all, and just the empowered DIY ethos that just permeated everything about Gotham and roller derby, as I would soon learn. I started volunteering shortly after, and then I was a cheerleader, which also is a kind of support staff that we have here that dance at halftime and just are the biggest fans of the skaters and the team and the league. And then I started learning to skate through the rec league program a few years after that, and have been skating on and off with the rec league program for the last few years. And in that time, I've made really great friends. I've challenged myself more than I ever thought I would. I am a super huge Gotham All Stars fan. I love the charter team. I love all of the teams, honestly, but I just am in awe of all of the things. I remember we always have a double header in Coney Island, and one year the All Stars played Denver. And at that moment, Bonnie was still a Gotham All-Stars skater, and I believe Susie Hot Rod was still also on the A team, which it was just such a Mick Swagger was also on the team, and it was just my senses were like overloaded. My battery was frayed at the end of it. I just couldn't. It was so amazing. They went on to beat Rose that year. I think it was the last time they beat Rose by, in the very last jam. That game was bananas. So I've also gone to RollerCon a few times and have gone to playoffs in Montreal and Portland. I've traveled around. I've done the Derby tourism thing too, and guest clinics or guest, coaching clinics and what have you. So I feel like my experience is kind of well-rounded, and it's every step of the way. I've really just loved everything that I've put my body through and all of the people that I've met along the way. And though in the past few years we've had the whole issue with race and Derby come up, I generally have a really positive experience for this sport. But getting back to that about representation in Derby, I think that was another huge catalyst for starting this podcast. I felt the need to create community and a platform to uplift people that I identify with, BIPOC, being Black, Indigenous, people of color, people of size rather, or fat athletes. I know that some people have different terminology that they use, but basically body positive and larger skaters, I guess I'll say. So I wanted just to create a space where we can have a more panoramic perspective of the community and elevate and amplify voices that don't necessarily get the mic. I also feel that as a Afro-Latinx queer person, I am very interested to help bridge and help create more space for skaters in the global South, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia. I feel like we should, if we're a global sport, then we should recognize 75-80% of the globe. And I just want to do my little part. I want to put my grano de arena, my grain of sand, as they say, and pitch in. And that is what holding space with Magical Wheelism is in a nutshell. One thing that holding space with Magical Wheelism is professional derby advice, trademark, all capital letters. As I said before, I am a fan. And I also have journalistic experience. So I have some journalistic chops to come at this with, but basically I have an inquisitive mind. I'm very curious. I'm very empathetic, and I like to talk a lot. So I'm very good at asking questions. I like to think I'm very good at getting questions answered. So let's learn together. So that's it for me. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next time when I will have a few individuals on to discuss Roll Call, a BIPOC skating event that happens in Richmond, Virginia in early August.